I believe that in life, we all have moments that create us, that forge our destiny, that define our character, moments that show us exactly who we are and what we are capable of. And these moments, they never happen when we are up. They're never moments of triumph, but of adversity. When life falls apart and when challenges bigger than anything we have ever faced before and challenges that we are not even expecting, when they come knocking, in the moments that follow, we get to create our most enduring transformations. It's why we love hearing about the struggles of people we admire. Whenever these successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, creative geniuses, innovators, scientists, whenever they're interviewed, they're always asked to share about the lowest moments of their life. In fact, that is what even they talk about because that's where they have learned the most crucial lessons of their life. That is when they laid the foundation of the life they have today. It's not just Harry Potter and The Shining that makes Stephen King and J.K. Rowling such amazing, incredible people or writers. It's also the rejections that came before the acceptance of their work that makes their story so fascinating. Michael Jordan's rejection from his high school basketball team, Amitabh Bachchan's rejection from the All India Radio and the back-to-back flops that followed, Oprah Winfrey's history with abuse and professional struggles, Henry Ford's bankruptcies, all of these things are what make their story so powerful. We look at their stories, their adversities, and it makes us wonder how we would respond in similar circumstances. Well, at least in this one respect, life is incredibly fair, incredibly just. We all get our fair share of adversities. We all get the opportunity to find out exactly what we are made of. So let's talk about how we can not only survive, but thrive through adversity. The number one thing that helps you thrive through adversity is your perception of the situation, the meaning you assign to it, and the attitude you adopt. Okay, so here's a scenario for you. You have a day set aside for adventure. You are going to this place that you've never been to before, and you're going to explore the woods, explore the open green space, and have a good time of it. You get there, the weather is great, the sun is out, your belly is full of yummy food, you've had a good night's sleep, your energy is high, your mood is up, you are really looking forward to the day, and you're having a great time of it. Suddenly, the weather turns bad. A storm breaks out. There's thunder in the air, it starts to rain. From sunny, it goes to dark and gloomy. You still have to cross through those woods to get to the other side. But before the storm broke out, you were looking forward to it because it was quite an adventure. You were going to go through those woods, explore some unexplored territory, and just have a good time of it. But now that it's dark out, now that it's raining, it's kind of cold and uncomfortable. Now you're looking at those woods and you find yourself scared. It looks dangerous, it looks intimidating, and you really don't want to go through those woods. If there was a way to avoid it, you would. Before the storm broke out, you would have gone through those woods smiling and laughing, singing to yourself, having a merry time of it. But now you'll still go through those woods, but you'll have to go through them with your shoulders hunched in, looking out for danger, looking out for wild animals, wild people, waiting for it all to get over so that you can get to the other side, get in your car, and drive home. What changed exactly? The woods are exactly the same. You are exactly the same. The plan hasn't changed. What you have to do now hasn't changed. And yet your attitude is completely different. What was a few minutes ago an adventure has now turned into adversity. Why is that? It's because of your perception of the situation. The storm and the thunder have turned that adventure into a challenge. You are scared now because you are looking at those woods, and what you are seeing are all the possible dangers lurking inside. Everything that could go wrong. The many ways you can get hurt and injured. And that has taken away all the fun and adventure from your day. It is your perception of the situation that has changed. If you had the discipline to control that perception, going through those woods would still be an adventure for you. You wouldn't be as comfortable. You'll be a little wet. It would be a little loud because of the storm and thunder, but you would still have kind of a good time because it's still an adventure. It's still unexplored territory. You still have that love for new places. It is your perception that has changed. When you are facing adversity in life, your perception is incredibly important. It is what keeps you sane. If your perception is working against you, you are going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get very emotional. Fear is going to be the most dominant emotion in those moments, and very quickly things will spiral out of control. In moments of adversity, we need to think rationally. We need to be strategic about how we will move forward. But if you panic, if you get scared, if you let the situation overwhelm you, you'll be anything but rational. And that is what happens when your perception is not working for you. The next thing I mentioned was the meaning you assign to the situation. Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust by finding meaning in his pain, in his struggles. In fact, he established a school on that entire premise because he believed that life is not happiness centric, life is growth centric, and growth happens when we face the worst challenges of our life. And the way to do that, the way to thrive through adversity, is by finding meaning in all the bad shit you face in life. And I think one very simple way to do that is to find purpose, is to attach a purpose to your pain, to your struggles. Think about it. We go to the gym every day and we put ourselves through exercises that get progressively harder every day. We put ourselves on these machines, we put ourselves through trainings that honestly often feel like torture, at least to me. But we keep doing it, we keep going back every single day. Nobody's asking you to do that. Nobody even cares that you're doing that, but you do it anyways. You eat healthy food. You say no to food that tastes delicious but is extremely unhealthy for you. So you say no to that. You maintain that discipline. You do the exercises every single day, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how busy you are, you make time for it. Why do we do that? Because we know what's waiting for us on the other side, because we know what we are building as we are doing this. It's not just that the body that we want, it's the person that we become when we put ourselves through those struggles and we feel like we are better people for it. So when you find a higher purpose in the pain that you're enduring, you are able to not only survive it, but you're able to make something of it. So find a way to attach meaning to your adversity that serves you. The third thing that I mentioned as part of the first point was the attitude you adopt matters a lot. Now, a lot of people, the moment life starts to get away from them, they lapse into a victim mindset. They start ranting and railing and bitching and moaning about everything that's happening in their life. Why me? Why is this happening? Why does God hate me? Why does the universe hate me? They blame other people in their life. They blame their childhood. They blame their families. They blame their boss, and they get jealous and they get resentful of people who have it better. They completely fall into this trap where the victim mindset takes over, and instead of making things better, things start to get way worse. Because if you have a victim mindset, and if that is how you're moving through that period of adversity, your perception is going to be skewed. It's going to make a bad situation way worse. You will not be able to find any meaning in that, because if you are finding meaning in it, there's no way you're going to have a victim mindset. So the attitude you adopt as you move through that period is very, very important. Attach all of those adversities to your higher purpose, find meaning in the pain that is going to follow, and adopt the attitude of a fighter. And it will be easier for us to do all of that if we have a clear personal identity. I talked about this point at length in a previous video that I did, 6 steps to living an empowered life. You can watch it right here. To reduce it to like the most basic, what having a clear personal identity means is having a clear idea of who you are, how you want to show up in the world, purpose are you pursuing, what are your values, persona you adopt in your different interactions, and your belief system. Why this is so important. If I believe myself to be a tough woman, a leader, if I believe that I have the resources to endure big challenges in life, when those challenges come knocking, I'll roll up my sleeve and I'll switch into fight mode. But if I believe that I'm delicate, I'm fragile, if when challenges do come knocking, I will most probably buckle under the pressure. It's like in offices when projects come in, some people would come into that meeting with a clear agenda, with ideas and strategies already put down on paper. They step into the room and they start telling everyone what we should be doing. They start sharing their ideas and they already have a plan ready to go. And then there are a lot of people in that room who would be sitting quietly waiting for instructions. They're waiting to be told what needs to be done. So there are people who already have a plan and there are people waiting for directions. So how we show up in the world, how we face challenges, how we face new unexpected turns that our life takes has a lot to do with our personal identity. Who do we believe ourselves to be at our very core? Are we leaders? Do we take life by the horns and do we give back as good as we get? Or are we victims who let life happen to them? I'm sure it's not always that extreme. There's a lot in the middle, but basically who you believe yourself to be, how you want to show up in the world. Are you going to settle for good enough, or are you going to fight the fight and create something amazing out of the adversities that you're facing? I think answering those questions is very, very important, and I think they will determine the path that you're going to follow and exactly what the other side of this is going to look like. Something else that can help you thrive through adversity is discipline. Cultivate self-discipline, or another way I would put it is learn to love discomfort in life. The only reason we look at something that is happening in our life and label it as an adversity, label it as a challenge, is because it demands that we come out of our comfort zone. It's because we are facing something that we can only resolve by doing unfamiliar things, by up leveling our skills. But if we make discomfort a part of our life, something that we willingly invite into our life on a regular basis, nothing in life from that point forward would intimidate us as much. As and when adversities come knocking, right away, our mind would switch into gear, our energies will be focused, we'll be ready for it because we know how to work through such challenges. It will be a way of life for us. So I think one of the easiest way to do that is to have discipline in your life, and a discipline that is created through routines and rituals. Getting up early, going to bed early, saying no to invitations, saying no to unhealthy food, exercising every day, learning every day, reading every day, writing every day, adopting a lot of healthy rituals like journaling, self-dialoguing. If there is a lot of toxicity in our life, maybe going to therapy. Discipline on a daily basis helps us focus our resources, which is the very first thing we do when we are faced with challenges. And having discipline in our life makes that step very easy for us. Another thing that I've already mentioned as part of this point is inviting discomfort into your life. So do that not only through the discipline that comes with routines and rituals, but also by inviting uncertainty into your life. A very, very simple way to do that is try new things all the time. Try new skills all the time. Keep learning. Put your brain through its paces. Put your body through challenges. So invite the kind of discomfort that comes with exploring unexplored territories. Because when facing challenges, if you're able to bring this self-knowledge that reminds you that you are capable of going down unknown paths, you will go through new challenges and adversities in your life with a mindset that will serve you. Point number 4, focus your emotions. Emotions are a key part of our performance. When we are faced with challenges, with adversities, they tap into all of our negative emotions, which is why we perceive them to be so crippling, to be so intimidating, which is how things start to spiral out of control and we lapse into a victim mindset. Which is why it's very important that you know how to focus your emotions, manage them effectively, and use them in a way that serves you. One of the ways to do that is learn to give your emotions the space they need. Our first instinct when we are faced with negative emotions is to repress them, avoid them, find some kind of distraction so that we don't have to work through those emotions because they're so uncomfortable. But the problem with that is when you do have overwhelming adversities in your life, repression is no longer an option. But if that has been a way of life for you, you also don't have the tools to work through your emotions, which is why for certain people, when they are faced with challenges, things spiral out of control so quickly because they have no idea how to manage their emotions. So it's important that you cultivate practices that allow you to work through your emotions. And one way to do that, as I said, is to give your emotions the space they need. As and when a strong emotion comes knocking, work through that emotion. Listen to what that emotion is telling you, the story behind it. Work through the thoughts that are fueling your emotions, and add a layer to that exercise by working your way back from a high emotional point to a place of calm and internal peace. And also, as you do all of these things, what you will find is that you will also be able to come up with action items. As you work through your emotions, you will often come up with very rational, very logical steps to take to help your situation. I think that is another thing that happens when you learn how to focus your emotions. It's that you can shift from a place of panic to a place of action. Point number 5, stay present and focus on what you can control. One of the things that create a lot of fear in us when we are facing adversity is the unpredictability of the situation. What's going to happen? Are we going to be able to make our way through the situation or not? Are we going to triumph over the situation or not? Or is this going to cause the kind of destruction that we will never be able to unravel, that we will never be able to make our way back from? Those kinds of thoughts really make it very difficult for us to operate from a place of power. So I think one thing that can really help you is learn to stay present. As you're facing these challenges, stay in the moment and focus on what needs to be done, one step after another. So don't start thinking about the future. Don't obsess over the past. Don't obsess over what led up to this. And definitely don't fixate on what the future is going to bring. Stay in the present and do what you can do today to move the needle forward. If that is all you can manage in the situation, then do that. Something else that you need to do to help the situation is focus on what you can control. Mostly, we face adversity because of things that are beyond our control. The pandemic was a great example of this. A lot of businesses collapsed during the pandemic, but a lot of businesses massively grew during the pandemic as well. It's because those people, the people who were able to grow their businesses during that period, shifted their focus to what they could control. They couldn't make the pandemic go away. They couldn't stop the lockdown from happening. So what they instead did was they focused their intelligence, they focused their skills into creating products that serve people during the pandemic. I think Stitch Fix is a great example of this. The company thrived during pandemic while the stocks of all the other companies were crashing. Stitch Fix managed to do very well for itself, and it was because they made a lot of changes to their stock.
In early December, the stock was selling around $35 a share. By Wednesday, the stock had closed at over $100 a share, made founder and CEO Katrina Lake a billionaire, and shined light on a retail company doing unusually well during the pandemic.
They added to their stock a lot of loungewear, a lot of comfortable sweatpants, comfortable clothing that people could wear around the house, which was what was in great demand at the time since everyone was staying home. They also added baby clothes to their offerings because pandemic or not, lockdown or not, babies are going to keep growing and people are going to need clothing for them. So they made the changes that they could make. They focused on what they could control. And in doing so, they were able to grow their business at a time when every other business was in fact facing a decline in their profits. Which brings me to the next point: be adaptable, pivot quickly. We talked about this already during this video. We call something an adversity because we are facing something that we have never faced before, because it's pulling us out of our comfort zone. It's demanding that we do things that we've never done before. So if you are someone who is able to adapt and pivot quickly, it will serve you greatly during those periods. That is what Stitch Fix did, and that is how they managed to not only survive but thrive through adversity, which is what you have to do as well. So something that will help you is if you take your ego out of the equation. We have already talked about how emotions have great impact on how you perform in life. And I think your ego taps into all of your negative emotions. It shifts your focus to things that actually don't matter in that moment. So I think it is very important that you take your ego out of the equation so that you can do what needs to be done. And when you are facing adversity, the first thing that your adversity tells you is that whatever it is that you were doing up to this point, it's clearly not working for you. If that is what all the businesses had to reconcile with when the pandemic happened. And the businesses that were able to accept that and adapt accordingly were managed to thrive during the pandemic. So take your ego out of the equation. Embrace humility as you go through that period of your life. Learn what you need to learn to thrive through that adversity. Be willing to ask for help and adopt the mindset of a student. I've always considered that to be a great way of dealing with our adversities, of dealing especially with our failures. Because if you are a forever student, you can never fail. Now, point number 7, move quickly. I think it's very understandable that when something unexpected happens in our life, something unexpected and unpleasant happens in our life, we are taken by surprise. We're not ready for it, which means that it takes us a moment to start thinking rationally. It's very natural for us to have a moment of panic, to have a moment of self-pity. It is okay for us to step back and for a little while bitch and moan and cry about the situation we find ourselves in. But if you wallow in self-pity, if you linger in that moment for too long, passivity will settle in and it will become harder and harder for you to focus your resources and take positive action. So when you are faced with adversity, when you are faced with challenges, take your moment. But once you find even a little bit of relief, start strategizing. Move quickly. Self-pity can spiral very quickly. It's one of the reasons why when people are faced with a lot of challenges, they go into depression. In fact, in a lot of the cases, depression is sustained through lack of action. In a lot of cases, if people would just get out of bed, get out of their home and start taking small little actions in the right direction, I think they would find it easier to let go of that depressive state and move to a healthier place in their life. To add to that, there's point number 8, be strategic. I think having a goal for a strategy in times of adversity can really help. Yes, you need to move quickly, but you also need to take considered, consistent, and deliberate action. And to do that, you need a clear goal in sight. Thriving through adversity, what does that even mean for you? Whatever situation you're facing, you need to assess your resources, you need to take stock, and you need to set yourself clear goals. Surviving and thriving through this adversity means that I end up with XY profits, means that I end up with this kind of health, new healthy relationship. Whatever it means for you to thrive through adversity, that needs to be put down in tangible terms. In the form of a clear, concise goal. And when you have that goal in sight, you can come up with a clear plan. Once you have a clear plan, break it down into small, bite-sized steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Because remember that facing all of those adversities, facing a big intimidating challenge brings with it a lot of emotion. It creates a lot of overwhelm. The last thing you want to do is go into a plan that is also intimidating in its own right. That's only going to make a bad situation worse. So what you need to do is, once you have a plan, clear goal, then a clear plan, break it down into small little steps. Establish milestones. When you have a milestone, as in when you achieve it, you know you're getting closer to your goal. That gives you motivation, that inspires you to keep moving forward, because you know you're going in the right direction and you know you're already making your way out of the darkness. So create milestones around the bite-sized steps that you've established and use the achievement of those milestones to have a little celebration, to remind yourself of your strength and the fact that you have all the resources you need to thrive through this adversity. Next, you need a timeline. We've already talked about not wallowing in self-pity, not being passive through this period, because if you do that, it could spiral very quickly, depression can set in, and it could really crush your energy. So along with the milestones, also establish a timeline and stick to that timeline so that you keep moving at a pace that serves you. You need momentum to thrive through adversity and avoid any of the negative emotions from taking up mental space. So have a clear goals, establish a plan, break it down into tiny little steps, establish milestones to validate your progress, and have a very clear, rigid timeline. Have an alternative point of focus. When my business started facing trouble, when things were not working out for me one after the other, I would launch a new plan, the plan would fail, or something would happen that instead of moving me forward would move me backwards. I was starting to get very depressed. The anxiety was coming back. It was starting to get really loud in my head. So what I did was I started focusing on my body. I established this goal that by my next birthday, the one in 2023, I'm going to turn my body into a finely tuned machine. Like, that was honestly my goal. In those exact words, that is how I stated it to my friends, and this is what I'm going to do. And it's a tough goal because the pressures of my business, I was not working out very well. I was not eating healthy. So my body currently is anything but healthy, is anything but a machine. But I set that goal. I don't know if I'll achieve this goal or not, but it has given me something really wonderful, something very, very healthy to focus on. And as I established this alternative point of focus for myself, I noticed that I was able to make better decisions for my business. My business was starting to do well as well, because I think it was the fact that I gave myself a break. Every day for at least a couple of hours, I was focused on something completely different, so that when I did come back to my desk, when I would start working on my business again, I would do so with renewed energy and I would see things that I wasn't seeing before. So I think that really helps, having an alternative point of focus. I don't know if I'll achieve this goal of mine or not by my next birthday. So far, things have not been going well for me, but this goal is in itself so pleasant. It's so healthy. All the exercise I'm doing, all the healthy food I'm eating, it's so good, and it's making me feel good on a daily basis that it can only do good for me. Whether I achieve it or not, doesn't matter. It's serving me in two ways. It's, as I said, given me something very pleasant, very, very healthy to focus on. And it allows me every day to come back to my business, to come back to my work with renewed vigor, with renewed energy, with fresh eyes. So it is very important when you are going through difficult periods of your life that you have something completely pleasant and no pressure for you to focus on. Now, last point, and something else that would help you keep your energy up, stay motivated, stay inspired as you are facing adversity, would be using other people's success and other people's stories as fuel. Something else that works against us when we are facing adversity is a sense of isolation that sets in. We start to feel very alone with our pain, with our failures, with our humiliation, whatever it is that the adversity has brought into our life. We start thinking that we are all by ourselves. No one can really understand what we are going through, and we have to walk this very difficult path all by ourselves. So the challenge in itself is there, but it's also bringing with it a lot of pain that born out of loneliness. So for a lot of people, that can be very difficult to manage. Maybe you don't have a support system. And if that's the case, I think this will really help. Use other people's story, other people's struggle as fuel. When we look at all the things all of these amazing athletes and entrepreneurs and scientists have achieved, it tells us that it can be done. that you can go from nothing to achieving gold medals in Olympics. You can lose a limb and you can still be an athlete. It reminds us that you can be born in absolute poverty and can still establish $1 million company. And the world is full of such stories. So use those stories as fuel, as motivation, as inspiration. All of these people, they're human beings. They were not born with anything special. They just learned skills along the way that served them, that helped them reach that goal that right now seems impossible to us. We're exactly the same as them. We just haven't found the thing that works for us. We just haven't found our strategy, our skills that are going to shoot us forward. So read their stories, learn about their struggles, and look at their success and remind yourself that if they could do it, so can you. And to fight that loneliness, remind yourself that you are not the only one going through this by yourself. Maybe you're not connected to everyone else facing adversities, but there are a lot of people who are right now, right this second, in as much pain as you are, perhaps even in situations that are very similar to your own. And maybe you don't know that, maybe you'll never get to meet them. But despite that, you can perhaps create a sense of oneness with all the other people out there who are also struggling, who are also facing an uphill battle, and you can feel one with these people. It may seem like you're all alone, but you're really not. There are a lot of people who share your pain, who share your struggles, and something else that can really help. As we talked about at the very beginning of this video, it is in adversity that the most important chapters of our life are written. Remind yourself that when you make it out of this storm, you will be able to share that story with countless others who will probably face the situations you're facing right now, and your story will be something that will carry them through it. So that is what I recommend you do to thrive through adversity. If you have anything to add, let me hear it. Hit the comment section and share your feedback and your suggestions. I will see you again in the next video.